Tuesdays had their own rhythm. For me, Evelyn Carter, they carried a quiet comfort, a hush that had settled over my life since Robert passed away. And the children, one by one, they packed their dreams into boxes and left, chasing lives beyond the fences of our little cul-de-sac. The house wasn't silent, not exactly. There were creaks in the floorboards, the distant chirp of sparrows, the steady hum of the refrigerator. But it was still enough for a woman like me to hear the whispers of memory. It was mid-morning. Sunlight filtered through the kitchen window, not in some grand cinematic way, but with that soft golden glow that made even dust motes look enchanted. Light caught the rim of my coffee mug, illuminating the delicate swirls of steam rising from my second cup. It was one of those slow sips where you cradle the warmth and let it hold you. I had finally mustered the courage to tackle the study. 6 months of procrastination had piled up in books I loved too much to give away, but not enough to keep neatly shelved. Robert used to call it my paper garden. Said I grew stories the way I grew marigolds, wildly sentimentally, without restraint. The doorbell rang just as I reached for the step stool. Now doorbells in my world weren't everyday occurrences anymore. A package delivery perhaps. Margaret from next door dropping by with gossip or her famous lemon bars. But a ring at 11 in the morning? That was enough to stir a flutter of curiosity in my chest. I wiped my hands on my apron, one of Robert's old ones, faded blue plaid, softened by years of use, and made my way to the door. Peering through the peephole, I saw a young man standing there, tall, shifting slightly as if unsure whether to ring again or walk away. A book was tucked under his arm. His sandy brown hair was tousled, just as I remembered, like a crown of sunlight. I couldn't see his eyes yet, but instinct told me they'd be green. Familiar. Recognition hit me like a wave. Daniel. Michael and Claire's boy from across the street. I hadn't seen him in years. Not properly, not since he left for college. He must be 27 now, maybe 28. Gone was the boy who used to ride his bike in looping circles on the pavement, who skipped stones at the creek behind the neighborhood. In his place stood a man lean but grown, his presence making the porch feel smaller somehow. I opened the door, and the smile came naturally, genuine, surprised, warm. Daniel. What a lovely surprise. Come in. His smile mirrored mine, hesitant at first, then widening, creasing the corners of his bright green eyes. Claire's eyes. Hi, Mrs. Carter, he said, his voice deeper than I remembered but still gentle. Hope I'm not interrupting anything. Not at all, I said, stepping aside. I was just gearing up to battle a mountain of books. Come on in. The scent of my home, lemon polish, aging paper, and something faintly sweet, like vanilla, greeted him like an old friend. He stepped inside slowly, as if reacquainting himself with the space. The same hardwood floors, the same worn rug, the same photos lining the walls, unchanged yet steeped in time. As I closed the door behind us, I felt something rare stir in the air, an unexpected visit on an ordinary day. The kind of moment that reminds you life isn't done surprising you yet. The knock had been soft, almost hesitant. I'd been wiping my hands on a dish towel when I answered, not expecting anyone at this hour. And there he was, Daniel, tall and slightly awkward, holding a worn copy of To Kill a Mockingbird, its spine creased, its cover faded. The kind of book that had passed through many hands, absorbing stories beyond the ones printed on its pages. Mom asked me to return this, he said, offering it carefully, as if it were something sacred. She finished it last week. You know how she gets sidetracked. I chuckled, the corners of my mouth lifting. That I do. Taking the book, I ran my fingers over its well-loved edges. Thank you, Daniel. There was a pause then, the kind that lingers between people who know each other well enough to be comfortable, but not so well that conversation flows effortlessly. And before I could think better of it, the words slipped out, warm and automatic, like muscle memory from years of neighborly habits. Would you like to come in for a bit? I just made coffee. Or there's iced tea, if you prefer. It's getting warm out. He hesitated, just for a second, long enough that I thought he might decline, but then he nodded, a small, almost sheepish smile tugging at his lips. Coffee sounds great. If it's no trouble. No trouble at all, I said, leading him into the kitchen. The room was bathed in afternoon light, golden and lazy, filtering through the butter-yellow curtains that fluttered with the breeze. The walls were lined with shelves cluttered with ceramic canisters, spice jars, dog-eared recipe books. A plump blue jay perched on the feeder outside, squawking as if it owned the place. Daniel sat at the small, round table, its red and white checkered cloth slightly askew from my earlier lunch. He set the book down carefully, as if it still held traces of the story his mother had read. He looked a little out of place in his plain t-shirt and jeans, in a kitchen that smelled of cinnamon and rosemary and home. But there was an ease to him, a quiet comfort, as if he'd sat here once as a boy and his body remembered even if his mind didn't. "So," I said, pouring coffee into a sturdy mug. "How have you been? Last I heard, you were working in the city, something in tech." He nodded, accepting the mug with both hands. Steam curled lazily between us. "Yeah. Software development. It's interesting. Keeps me busy." He took a sip, and something in his expression softened, as if the warmth had seeped into his bones. "This is really good coffee, Mrs. Carter." "Evelyn, please," I said with a laugh. "Mrs. Carter makes me feel like I should be handing out butterscotch candies and scolding children for tracking mud inside." A real smile broke across his face then, wide, unguarded. The kind that transforms a person. "Evelyn." "Okay." He glanced at the mug. "Cinnamon." I nodded. "A little habit of mine. I'll have to remember that." "You should," I said, smiling into my own cup. Some things, good coffee, old books, they're meant to be remembered. For a while, the kitchen was quiet, filled only with the soft sounds of sipping coffee, the rustle of pages in memory, and the distant call of the blue jay outside. A gentle reminder that the best parts of life are often the smallest. He stood quietly for a moment, his gaze drifting around the room like someone rediscovering a forgotten place. It lingered on the corkboard near the old landline phone, faded snapshots of my children frozen in time, bright smiles and scraped knees. A photo of Robert and me, arms around each other, laughing under a sunset on some long-ago vacation. "It's nice in here," Daniel said, his voice rough but touched with something tender. "Feels like my grandma's house used to." The comment struck me harder than I expected, curling into my chest like a warm breeze slipping under a door. My own grandmother's kitchen had been like this, cluttered, lived in, glowing with quiet joy. The scent of cinnamon and soap, the hush of safety. Tears pricked behind my eyes, but I smiled instead. "Thank you, Daniel," I said softly. "That's a lovely thing to say." We sat in a silence that wasn't empty but full, rich with unspoken things, with history too vast to fit into a single afternoon. The grandfather clock in the hallway ticked steadily, each second a slow heartbeat. Outside, the distant drone of a lawnmower hummed beneath the stillness. I glanced at his hands, wrapped around the mug. No longer the soft hands of the boy I remembered, but lean and sure, faint ink smudges on his fingers, like tiny signatures from a world of thoughts. He'd been writing, it seemed, still chasing words, like his father used to. Trying to ease into conversation, I nodded at the worn copy of To Kill a Mockingbird between us. "So," I said, voice light but heart not quite, "did you enjoy the book?" He looked up slowly, his expression softening in a way that surprised me. "I actually reread parts of it after Mom was done," he admitted. "It's been years, but it still holds up. Still powerful." "It really does," I agreed, leaning back, letting nostalgia wrap around us. "Atticus Finch was always a hero of mine." "Mine too," he said quickly. Then after a pause he added, "Makes you think, doesn't it? About doing the right thing, even when it's hard." That was when he looked directly at me. His green eyes, brighter than I remembered, locked onto mine with a weight I hadn't anticipated. Not angry, not demanding, just present. Fully vulnerably there. There aren't many Atticus Finches left in the world, are there? The question wasn't rhetorical. It was honest. Maybe even a little broken. It caught me off guard, slicing through small talk and landing right in the quiet ache I carried. The one that never quite healed. For a moment, something passed between us. A bridge, perhaps, between two people who had once known each other well but had forgotten the shape of each other's lives. A moment that asked not for answers, but for truth. And I realized, then, that this conversation wasn't really about the book at all. I hope you enjoyed this heartfelt tale of Evelyn, Daniel, and the quiet magic of unexpected conversations. If this story resonated with you, if it made you smile, reflect, or even tear up a little, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below. What was your favorite moment? Did it remind you of a special person or memory? Would you like more stories like this? Subscribe for more. If you love character-driven stories full of nostalgia, warmth, and hidden depths, hit that subscribe button.